distinguished himself with the ability to have real and raw conversations with so many of his students in Mishpaim, and all in a positive and empowering way. As we saw this afternoon, even his public conversations feel very, very personal, even in front of a large audience. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome Rabbi Yossi Raskin.
A good Abend, a gute Woche, Shavua Tov. Before I start, with the permission of the Mora de Asra, Harav Telsner Shlita, Chasanu Devei Nesio, the son-in-law of the revered Rabbi Groner, Olav Shalom, how appropriate for his yahrzeit to be in a day that has the Yom Yom of the holiday Tmuz. If a chassid puts his heart and soul dedicated to the Rebbe's kavanah, I'm not quoting the word verbally, he can change and make a change in the entire city. This is for me, Rabbi Groner. As a Bachar here 24 years ago, I clearly remember the way he would keep a blot shir in Gemara. In front of an audience that some of them were older than himself. And he would tell them, Kinderlach, Kinderlach, guck dabei, Kinderlach. So there steht. And they were smiling towards him with love and with admiration. At a different occasion, the same year that I was here, Tafshin Nun Ches, Tisha B'Av was on Shabbos, and my great uncle, Reb Nachum Zalman Olav Shalom, has passed away. And Sunday was his levaya. I actually came flying from Sydney. And I remember in the levaya in the Bis Olam over here in Melbourne, Rabbi Groner Olav Shalom walks just like out of an old-fashioned book and saying, Steht in Sforim, man darf halt Tshuva sein. It says in Sforim, the people have to think of doing Tshuva. And he said it sincerely, and we all did Tshuva. So this is just a Haggadah to understand where we are tonight. Rabbi Groner will remember you. I hope that the energy that I infused in the shul today, I was able to leech it off you. And the koichas that you put in this Ir Gedolah Melbourne did not only make a revolution in the city, but in the entire world. Thank you, Rabbi Groner. I also mentioned Rabbi Serebransky, which I did not have the merit to know him. But my first and most effective psychotherapy that I went through with Rabbi Kalman was all based on Rabbi Yeshua Shneur Zalman. So thank you, Rabbi Serebransky, you helped me. As well tonight, two more figures that may be not directly related to Melbourne, but to the entire Hasidic world, which is Reb Mendel Futterfass's yahrzeit, Daled Tammuz. And his brother-in-law, Reb Ben Shem Tov, will be the following day, Hey Tammuz. Three brother-in-laws, Gimel, Dalet, and Hey. A short story from Reb Mendel that I heard from my fellow teacher in my school, Reb Shlomo Futterfass, that when his wife was expecting, she turned to her husband's grandfather and said, Zayde, how shall we educate children? So he answered her in Yiddish, "De Kinder seien gut, mit darf sie nicht machen kale." The children are good, just don't ruin it. That was his advice for chinuch. A short story from Reb Ben Shem Tov, which I heard from his son. In Russia, there was a Yid by the name of Stillerman, Stillerman. And once a hidden agent of the KGB or NKVD, whatever there was at the time, stopped him. And it seems like the way that they would stop you, they did not come with flashes and cards. They, so to speak, had a friendly conversation to you with their regular clothing, like regular civilian clothing, while they will show you a badge or you'll get the point, you have to follow them. So Rebbe realized that this city is in great danger. He thought quickly, and with his wittiness and wisdom, he just jumped over this officer and started hugging and kissing him to make believe that he knows him. Sasha, how are you? By the time the officer realized that this is a hoax, Rabbi Stillman was able to escape. Now this guy wanted to arrest the Rebbe. So Rebbe will tell him, how is it going to look to you? You're going to come to your office. And he couldn't catch the guy. And let's make a little deal over here. You need money and I need my freedom. And he paid him something and the story was over. And the Rebbe mentioned by Farbrengen the idea that a chassid is Mesiras Nefesh, Favas Yisrael, for a fellow chassid. The theme of tonight will be a call for action. We're all going to do something about it. And we're going to be successful. As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Olav Shalom, said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe did not create followers, but rather leaders. Let us understand leadership. Allow me to take the keyword partnership. Let us go into partnership with the Rebbe tonight. And I'll tell a story about partnership. It's Motzei Shabbos, and it's a custom to say a Chassidish Maaseh b'dem Lava Malka. The Rebbe Maharash once told his son, the Rebbe Rashab, today I had two guests. From one I had great koiras ruach, tremendous nachas and joy. And from the other one, rather deep tsar, pain. The one who caused nachas, his name was Reb Elia Abeler. He was being brought in a Yom Yom. He was a ish pashut, a chassid, a Baal Esek, a mutzlach, and full of Avos Yisrael. So he's coming to Yechidus, and the Rebbe Marash asked him, Reb Elia, how's things going by you? He goes, Baruch Hashem. And how's your business? Baruch Hashem. However, complained Reb Elia to the Rebbe, we don't know what to do with Reb Yosef in our town. We tried to help him for no avail. We bought him a wagon and a horse so he can buy some merchandise and get some sustenance to his family. Lo and behold, one day a wagon breaks, a wheel breaks. The following day, the horse breaks a leg. Finally, he makes a deal. People are scamming him out of the money. And he goes, Rebbe, Allah Shlimazon, all type of misfortune is kind of sticking to him. What can we do to help him? He sighed and he broke crying in the Rebbe Marash Yechidus room. And he goes, Rebbe, what can we do for him? Tell him the Rebbe, they can stone a fula, can do tremendous. When a Yid asks and being mitztayr, sad, and take the burden of a fellow Jew's pain, is reaping gezeiros vekitrugim from this Yid. And therefore, takes the Rebbe Marash a coin out of his pocket and he offers Reb Elia, here is my ishtatfus, and I want to become your partner. I want to become your shutaf. Reb Elia, he was shaken from fear, and he turned to the Rebbe, Rebbe, do you know who am I? I am this chomer gas, this very thick material that is being, or matter that is being mentioned in Tanya, that the only way to fix such a matter is by cracking it, perhaps. The Rebbe did not finish to tell us in this story what happened in this conversation. However, this was nachas and koiras ruach for the Rebbe Maharash. And the Rebbe gave him a brocha. He should be able to help people with parnasa and help Yidden Bechlal to do a toivo, and he should be able to tzlacha. The following Yid, the one that the Rebbe had great tsar, sadness, his name was Rabbi Eliezer. And he was from the town of Polotsk, a big Talmud Chacham. He composed a book by the name Mishnas Eliezer. And his job was, he was a mentor and a teacher of young elite, the Elohim of the olden days when people used to buy their son-in-laws and promise them a dowry to seed and learn in koilel all year. So he was in charge of this type of koilel. And the Rebbe asked him, how's it going by you? And he's very happily expressing his success. I'm teaching, we're learning Iyun in depth. And we're learning Gedach, Chassidus. And they even davening be'arichus avoida, such a high element of Chassidus. Then asking the Rebbe Maharaj, and how about midos, characteristic? How is their character? So he goes, as if gvirische junge Leid, like if affluent young people. In English, slightly arrogant. The Rebbe Maharaj was very dissatisfied, and he said, that must be your fault, the educator, because the most important thing in chinuch and in education is midos toivos, good traits and good character. And he says the following: Nicht lernen dem Sefer, nor lernen sich allein. It's a word game in Yiddish. In Yiddish, the word study and teaching, it's the same word. Me lernt Torah, me lernt mit Kinder. So don't study the book, so to speak. Study, rather teach yourself. And if people will change, that's a good idea. And he gave them a tikkun what to do. Because you can go back, ask each one of these young people to take a half of their dowry, the money that they had in the trust, and put it into a gemach that's going to become a tzedakah cask. It's not going to be theirs anymore. He turned around and goes, Rebbe, ich lass nicht kennen Poilton bezei. I won't be able to be successful. Tells him the Rebbe, when I'm telling you, you'll be successful. Tell them the money is not theirs. And if they're not going to give it, they won't have it. And please, next time, give me better news. And when the Rebbe finished that story, he told to the Rebbe Rashab, wollte ich sich noch gegeben, mein Nefesh Elikis, if I would only indulge my spiritual part, my Nefesh Elikis, ich wollte a kush geton, Reb Eller, I would have kissed Reb Eller. So this is a story when the Rebbe described what is a partner of a Rebbe. Someone that comes to Yechidus and not describing his own problem, but someone else's. By him, everything is okay. But someone else's problem, he cries for it. And he asked the Rebbe to help, and the Rebbe wants him to be his partner. Recently, came out a book of the Mazkir, the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Groner. Our Rabbi Groner, all of us are Rabbi Groner, but Rabbi Groner's brother, Rebbe Leibel, all of us. And over there it's being brought a story with Reb Mendel Bartfeld, which was a brother of Rabbi Groner. That one night was an interesting meeting in his house. What was the meeting about? Apparently a young fellow was in financial trouble, and some 9 people got together to collect the funds to be able to bail him out and to help him. And somehow a rumor of that very meeting came into the Rebbe's knowledge. In the middle of the meeting, they get a phone call from Rabbi Groner, who tells them the Rebbe wants to know what is the quota, how much each one of the people obligate himself to pay, and the Rebbe wants to become a partner. He wants to be the 10th one. And the Rebbe's condition was that they should charge him just like everyone else, and they should send him a personal receipt, not even to the maskiras. So now we understand what partnership means. Take the Rebbe's interest and take it. Be a little bit of a Rebbe. Care for someone else, cry for someone else, and most importantly, act and get it done for someone else. So what is the mission? The Rebbe laid it out too. In the last Maimer V'Atot Tetzaveh, which is based on the Kibbutz Kivay Yehudim, the Rebbe was asking countless times that Chassidim should learn the lesson of the Maimer V'Kibbutz Yehudim. And the lesson is simple. The Frierdiker Rebbe described it, and the Rebbe described it. Is Mesiras Nefesh V'Chinuch of children, and Limud HaTorah Ba'asara, the Kilas, when people get together. Where do we see it? The Frierdiker Rebbe was primarily arrested because he worked on the behalf of the Jewish children should learn Torah, and he was gathering in public in Marina, Russia, and he spoke publicly. Frankly, that was the story of Haman as well, which the Maimer V'Kibbutz Yehudim based on. He first picked on the Jewish children. He said, if I want to get rid of the Jewish people, let me start with the children. Rahman al-Islam. So is the Yeshua, the salvation came also from the children. And also, the salvation came because Mordechai Yehudi gathered with the children and Dafka publicly. And when the Rebbe says that a whole year, not even once they thought of converting, Not only they didn't think of converting, but they were learning the Torah. Not only they're learning the Torah, but berabim makil kehiloi zayin. Where does word asara come in by our Rebbe? Number one, the last Simchas Torah, the Rebbe spoke about chinuch of Jewish children. Then when we look at a child, we should be able to say Mashiach. Al tigu b'mshichai eli tinoikis b'Yisrael. Look at a child and you will see Mashiach. I'll tell you a story, a little personal. I feel uncomfortable saying it, but I've seen it with my own eyes. I honestly did not understand what does it mean you look at a kid and you see Mashiach. You can see Edelkeit, you can see Yiddishkeit. I look at a child, I see Mashiach. I got my answer from a very rewarding corner. One year, I went to my good friend Peretz Chen in Massachusetts, Waltham, where he has a student, and I was a guest for Shabbos, and my son, my oldest one, Chesky, as a young kid at the time, I don't think he was even bar mitzvah. He got up in public, there was like 150, 200 people, and he spoke at Dvar Torah, a Sikh of the Rebbe, and a Nekuda of Parshas Shavua. These are students from a very liberal college, Brandeis University, and they cheered and they were so excited and delighted to see a Jewish child with so much pride. One student in particular, a young lady, got up and she was screaming, "This is Mashiach! This is Mashiach!" pointing at my little son. And then I understood what the Rebbe meant. When you look at a kid, you will see Mashiach. So this we see how the Rebbe's last Simchas Torah with us is emphasizing chinuch of kids. Where do we see Asara 10? The famous Sikh of Chavchas Nisan, when the Rebbe handed over to us the job and the mission to bring Mashiach, which he actually gave us on Tafshin Yud, but when he really let us know it. One of his requests was, let us find 10 people, but 10 akshonim, 10 people who will be stubborn to bring Mashiach. The following few weeks, the Rebbe lay out a beautiful advice and system how to bring Mashiach. You can look at them, Sheikhim of Nun Aleph Nun Beis. And the most famous one of them is Shabbos Parshas Tazriyah Metzorah, when the Rebbe says the easiest, smoothest, simplest way to bring Mashiach is learning in Yonei Mashiach U'Geula, rather berabim, and especially in the Rebbe's Likutei Sichos. It's the first time the Rebbe refer to the Frierdiker Rebbe as having Likutei Sichos of the Rebbe Deshver. The Frierdiker Rebbe has Likutei Diburim and Sichos Kodesh. Likutei Sichos is the Rebbe's book. And yet the Rebbe asked to learn the Rebbe Deshver's Likutei Sichos. Apparently the Rebbe believes, Torah believes, that Asara, Akol Asara Shechinta Sharia, that when 10 Yidden get together, we have a certain power that no one can stop us. Perhaps that's why we had such a big zera by the name COVID. You notice what was the greatest mischiefs of COVID? We couldn't get together to daven in Shul Ba'asara. Our children couldn't go to school. Exactly those two things. That the Frierdiker Rebbe fought, that the Rebbe is fighting, now we are fighting. A little chiddush, perhaps, what if it can inspire you? COVID-19. COVID, even the word COVID is almost a Lubavitch slang. A Polish will say COVID, an Israeli would say kavod, and an American will say honor. Aber COVID is a Lubavitch word, COVID-19. But zugenommen zu the COVID, someone wants to bother the COVID. And what is the COVID? Honor. COVID, honor to one another. Why 19? There was a COVID 1, COVID 2, then they jumped to 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. So why not COVID 10? Because the Alter Rebbe wants a Yid to look at himself if he's the only one, that without them there will be no Tisha Oinim. COVID for the 1 out of 9. You are the last one. The 9 depend of you. If you would not answer Oini Hashem Rabbah with the right respect, we lost the minyan. We need to have COVID for this 1919. How do you say 19 in Hebrew? Teisha, Esre. Teisha, Tov, Shin, Ayin. We came out to 770. Plus, Asara, Esre, is Tov, Shin, Pei, the year COVID started. Baruch Hashem, we after, and we over. But the exeris of children and the exeris of Asar B'Yisrael are constantly coming. What do we need now? One more word. It's called Mesiras Nefesh, which is basically the entire idea of a kibbutz and V'adot Tetzaveh. And what is Mesiras Nefesh? Military. When Eden came out of Mitzrayim, for the first time we granted the name Tzivos Hashem. What's the difference between a tzava, military, and slaves? We were slaves and we became military. They both looks to me miserable sometimes. They work hard, sleepless night. But a slave doesn't have passion and is not willing to die for anything. He's just looking for the next meal. A soldier has what to die for. Hopefully you don't have to. When he's willing to go for that, that willingness to die for something without having to execute it, that's tzava, that's military. Shortly after 6-Day War, the Israeli arena was in new trouble. Big borders, untrained to stop intruders. The Valley of Jordan became the name of Ir HaMirdafim, the city of chasing, because constantly there will be penetration of type of terrorists. And a terrorist, very dangerous terrorist group at the time was called HaChazit Amamit L'Shechur Palestine, the Liberal Front, or the Popular Front to Liberate Palestine. They weren't jihadists, they weren't religion, they were way worse. They were communists, they were godless, and they executed one of the worst hostages murder of all time that happened in Eretz Yisrael those years. One day, High Lieutenant, or Colonel at the time, Rafael Eitan, is known Raful, one of the best warriors Israel ever had, found himself with an elite team of people looking for those warriors who intruded somewhere near a Jewish village. At one point of the chase, they were in a disadvantage where they lost the trace and they did not know if they are surrendered by the enemy or they are surrounding the enemy. And it's a 50-50 chance. They froze, they did not know what to do. Here's a military advice. Raful told to his soldiers, switch a magazine, put a full one. Take all you have, grenade, machine guns, and shoot all towards the same direction with all your might. It makes no sense. What, where, when? They don't even know if there is a rock there. Perhaps people get a shoot in their back. But they did so. Within 20 seconds, if they got quiet, 2 terrorists get up from the bushes with their heads above the head. And some other 3 corpses were on the side laid out dead. The terrorists could have done the same technique. Thank God they didn't. They didn't have Raful. What's the message for us? Sometimes we're in despair, lost. What should we do? Where should we go? Just get up and shoot. I'll tell you a story happened with us in Granites, teachers. We had also trouble and turbulence, influence from the outside. People wanted to bring them with a choil. I'm not going to go into the details. We passed. Hashem helped us. And the Rebbe's Ratzon was fulfilled at last. But then we realized it's a constant struggle and it's always going to happen again. What shall we do? So we decided, among ourselves teachers, we're going to make an election and we're going to collect among ourselves a Va'ad Ruchni, a committee, a board that is aimed only towards the spirituality of the school. And that makes no sense. We can employ ourselves, we're all workers. But it was like the Raful story, there's no one there. The Makim Sheinish. We had to do it and we did it. And once we did it, we went to the next level. Shulchan Aruch says that the chinuch of the town is directly under the supervision of the rabbinate. The Rav, the Morad Asr, is not only a judge or a concierge of answers of halacha. He's the boss. He's the one who puts the tune how education should be. And we must submit to him. So we teachers got together and we approached at that time 3 Rabbanim of Granites. And we told them that we, the teachers of Torah, taking upon ourselves your unequivocal leadership. You are our boss. Whatever you're going to tell us, we will do. At a time, those Rabbanim were not, at least in the eyes of the community, in one unity. And people laughed at us that it's an impossible idea, and what were we doing over here? There's no 3 Rabbanim, there's no Bezdin. What are you doing wasting your time? That's not our business, that's Hashem's business. We as teachers decided that we will listen to the Lord. Tafshin Ayin Tes Gimel Tamuz. I was unprepared completely. Rabbi Ephraim stops me in Getzel Shul and he tells me, today you're going to speak over here. What? There's guests from out of town. That's how they do stuff in Crown Heights. Almost like in Melbourne. I'm joking. They tell you 3 months in advance. 2:35, Shabbos Parshas Ba'al Loisva. It's beautiful. I'm coming to speak. And I was debating if to say that story publicly because it was a private story from the teachers that we took upon ourselves, the Rabbonim. It will be a mockery. I turned to the Olam and I told him this story. And I said, we believe that with the very fact that we took upon ourselves the Rabbonim, in Shamayim spiritually it happened. The Olam listened respectfully. Guys, you can check it, it's all recorded, it's online. Sometime after Yud Beis Tammuz, Tafshin Ayin Tes, our 3, unfortunately only 2 by now, Rabbonim of Crown Heights, got together in a historic move that has saved Crown Heights' future. Nobody knew at the time there's going to be COVID in 6 months. I just want you to imagine in a place like Crown Heights, with the explicitity of New York City, with all of its dynamics. COVID breaks through, and one Rav will say, stay in, the other one say, stay out. Bochum will barricade himself in 770, and it would say, 770 never closed down. Police would have come with force, and Bochum will be willing to put their life away. Some Anash will run to the government, and some others will call them Masrid. The other will call them Raidif. It would have been a nightmare of epic proportion that we could have never imagined. But I must tell you, I was in Crown Heights. I think it was, other than the tragic death that we suffer so badly, but in terms of the law and order, one of the highest moments of the history of Crown Heights, at least of my life there. A few days before the city and the government ever came with the idea of a lockdown, our own Rabbonim initiated. They explained al pi Torah why to close the mikvahs and 770. And the miracle that everyone listened. The schools closed, gently and nicely, and followed the Rav, all 3 Rabbonim, in the most beautiful way. And they kept informing us and telling us what to do. The poor Rav got phone calls day and night about life and death decision. That's all of Crown Heights worked so efficiently. Some people couldn't go to the hospital, they wouldn't make it there, there would be neglect because the hospitals were overwhelmed. So they really found underground ways to find machineries and oxygen and breathing machines into people's home, and some of them managed to have a very dignified departure of the world with the help of the Tzolot of Crown Heights under the leadership of the Rabbonim. I would like to conclude, but before that I want to talk a story with a lighter touch. Just last week, Lamed Sivan Aleph Rosh Tammuz was my grandmother's yahrzeit, first yahrzeit. Her name was Rivka. Last name Raskin, married name, and maiden name Lane, the daughter of the revered Chassid, Harav Yeshua Lane Hashem Yikum Doma, who died by the Holocaust. She was a machanechas in our bones. The reason why I'm in education today is because of her. She fought like a lioness. She gave an Aiden and Talmud Chacham and a good person and a Pnimi. We never heard her play there. She did not speak Lashon Hara or Achilas. The Gedaven, gelernt and cooked and helped and worked very hard. And she was a phenomenal wife. My grandfather, Olav Sholem, won a raffle in Eretz Yisrael, and he came to the Rebbe. The Baba Riva did not want Zayda to be by himself because he is very traumatized from Russia, and he cannot stand in front of police and border patrol, and he needs his wife by his side. So she decided to come with him. Now, there was early 70s. The funds for tickets then, for a salary of a Kfar Chabad immigrant, would be equivalent between 3 and 5 months work. My grandmother took the loan, and she came with my grandfather to be with him on a special journey in New York. One day, while she was by the Weiber Shul, Rabbi Groner opens the door and asks, Is do a frui a Raskin from Kfar Chabad? Is there a lady Raskin from Kfar Chabad here? The ladies next to her pointed at her. He comes in with a cardboard box. The Rebbe das Gebet naich geben, the Rebbe asks and requests me to give it to you. Inside lays a beautiful cream cake from the bakery. Not a lekach, a full-fledged cake that the Rebbe sent her as a personal gesture. I've never heard of any story like that before. We never had a piece of the cake. I wasn't born. But most of the ladies in the Weiber Shul grabbed the pieces away from my Bobby. She barely had a kazais for herself left. But the story of the cake resonated with us. So in this opportunity, I want to tell my Bobby that she and her father and her grandfather fought under the Soviet force and harshness, that I'm here committing to go in our way and to fight our fight. And I want each one of us to commit to our Bobbies and to our Zaydis and to Avram, Yitzchak and Yaakov and to our Rabbeim, Rabbi Seinu, Niseinu, and unsere Rebbe, unsere Teire Rebbe. We're here for you. We're going to teach Taharas HaKodesh. We're going to have schools teaching Yiddish in Melbourne and in Sydney. In Sydney they have one already. Mitzvah Shem. We're going to love one another. We're going to have Avos Yisrael Chesed. Malamdim will be millionaires because we're going to revere them in that way. And everybody else. There'll be no more poor people because we have enough money. And I don't ask to distribute the wealth, just to give meiser. You own 10 houses? I know it's collateral and it's too much and the bank doesn't give and there is pressure. We had stories, we had COVID, we had it worse. One house, give to someone else. Rabbi Yossi Raskin, which I'm very indebted to him, because he brought me to Australia 3 times. First time for the Smicha program, second time by bringing Reuven here to marry Zahava, and right now again by Reuven and Zahava. So I'm here because of him. He once went to the Rebbe with his entire family, and at a time he would pay whether business class or first class, and he got a hira from the Rebbe to take the money that the trip cost him and give it to tzedakah. I know a Gvir in Crown Heights these days who made a most fancy, beautiful wedding, and quietly he took the entire money that the wedding cost him, and on the night of the wedding distributed to shluchim and to people in need. Chaver, we can do Torah, we can do tefillah, we can do tzedakah, and Mesiras Nefesh. When our kids will see that we unite, that we care for Torah in the order of Rabbonim, Chinuch, Mesiras Nefesh, Rosh Tevis Rachem, Obrachmanes, Rabbonim, Chinuch, Mesiras Nefesh, and Mochar, we can have the future for that. Multifogalman, thank you for the Rosh Tevis, whatever you are. Hashem will help us and have Rachmanas of us, and we can tell the Rebbe tonight, Rebbe, thank you for bringing me to Melbourne. It's a beautiful community. They are the best community. When they will build themselves up, the whole world will build itself. They have manners, they're put together, they're clean, they're nice. They have aesthetics to everything they do. As I told you, my grandfather, Beryl Gurevich, says that the best students came from Melbourne. I don't know if I should mention the name of my student, maybe it's not educationally appropriate, but my best student this year in all of Torah is a boy that his father is a shlich in Adelaide. And due to COVID, he did not see his father for 18 months. And as a teacher, my heart was bleeding and crying for him every day, but I couldn't show him Rachmanis because that would break him. I showed him that he's capable and he could, but behind the scene, I gave him all I could. He speaks Yiddish better than my entire class, and he's coming from Australia. He's learning Gemara and other stuff that's also beautiful. Our teachers who come from Australia are the prime of the school. Rabbi Shimshoni, a principal. Rabbi Benjamin, Rav Shmuel Moshe ben Freda Rochel Zoben Arafur Shloim Krov V'Techef Miad Mamish Chayat Sirlia Bas Ela Shedev Arafur Shloim Goren Gichem V'Ifen Shlei Shum Roishim Klal. And last but not least, Reb Osher Bro, who prepared me and told me, when you go to Melbourne, don't tell them stories. They are learned people. Give them teuchen. And when they came to see me, they told me, don't give us pilpulim. Talk to the lowest denominator. And I'm torn between those two, so too bad already. You might can ask me to give you back the phone. Finished, it's a pleasure to be here. You give me much more chizuk. It's your power that gave me the power. There should be good news in your community. Bona, Chayim, Ezreiner, Vicho. This is the last Gimel Tammuz without the Rebbe. From here, you should go to your Shleimer HaKadosh, with Malkeinu, Meshichenu, Berushenu, Teichef Miyad Mamish.